As a manager, Diego Maradona ran over reporters, snorted coke on the touchline, and threatened to kill Liam Gallagher. This is the story of what Diego did next. Welcome back to The Upshot. I'm Jack. Zach is here as ever.
Hello, Jack.
Hello. And joining us, 1 year on from our first Maradona episode, it's JP Lockwood.
I feel like we've come full circle.
Well, just more Maradona.
Yeah.
You sort of doing that New Year thing of looking back on your life. You know, what have I progressed on? And you're like, I'm still here talking about
It's quite a
Diego.
good way to start the year, actually, with a story of someone who took things a little bit too far.
Someone who didn't do dry January, safe to say. Didn't even do the gym by the sounds of it. We'll get all into that. So yeah, this is a bit of a sequel. A year ago, we talked about Maradona's time at Napoli, which is probably his most famous and celebrated phase. Now we're talking about what he did post-retirement. There is one other chapter that we're saving, which is Maradona and the 1994 World Cup, which was a truly wild time. But we're going to save that for the World Cup in 18 months' time in the US and Canada and Mexico.
Unless we run out of content between it.
Don't rule it out.
Don't rule it out.
This is a two-parter, weirdly. His famous Napoli era one isn't, but this one we decided really merits it. And it is... It's a story of Diego as a manager, but I think also there's quite a lot of just like partying and eating. I guess when you think of Maradona as a manager, you don't really remember it being a particularly successful time, do you?
I don't think of him as a manager at all. I'll be honest.
Do you think he should be one?
Probably not.
Yeah, it's quite weird because obviously he had that spell with Argentina, but then since then he's basically been consistently in jobs up until his death, obviously. But just for like the most random clubs that. He's basically just when they're struggling to get fans through the gate, it's just get Maradona.
Get Diego in.
There's also a sort of 90s wilderness years chapter here, of sort of like more like 10 years, mid 90s to mid noughties, where he's
On a bender.
pretty much, yeah. there's some funny moments in that, which we'll get into. Yeah, I guess we can sort of pass verdict at the end, but I think like the Napoli era, you sort of see Diego at his sweetest. He's like a sort of Peter Pan, little boy who just wants to like play football and have fun. This is the era where we see Diego at his nastiest, I would say. I still like the guy, but yeah, he can be a bit of a shit.
I feel like post Napoli, it's just a sort of downward trajectory.
Yeah.
It's basically that during his Napoli era, he picked up the party lifestyle big time. But he could still kind of get away with it because he was just like supremely talented, an absolute star and celebrity. Which obviously he still was. He was still a celebrity afterwards, but the talent sort of started to slowly drain away.
I think we should get into it.
Let's.
Do you want to kick us
Let's
off,
do
Zach?
it.
Where are we starting?
So we're picking up the story in the summer of 1994. So at this point, Diego's just been sent home from the 1994 World Cup in the USA. So he tested positive for banned performance enhancers after Argentina's second group game.
Can I just say, it's quite weird that he got banned for a performance-enhancing drug rather than cocaine.
He also got banned for coke.
Right.
In
Yeah.
91.
Well, 90, yeah, so
if you listened in our Napoli episode,
Didn't I do
JP, yeah, you were there.
yeah, so this is his second big drug ban. The first time in Napoli, he got a 15-month ban, and that's what he gets again from FIFA. This time for performance enhancers. He describes it as having my legs cut off. And, he's sort of bumming around for a bit, just partying, when he gets a call from one of his old teammates and he discovers a loophole. So basically he's been banned from playing, but he's not banned from managing. And so he agrees to take the reins at Deportivo Mandiyú, who they're quite a small club. They play in the top flight in Argentina, but one of the sort of minnows. And obviously there's a huge media fanfare. Like this is the star player of the Argentine team who's off the field, but going to be back in management. The players are a little bit skeptical. So one of them says, "I don't know if we will train much with Diego, but we will certainly enjoy a few barbecues."
He sounds quite pleased.
Wait for the steaks.
Yeah. And the rest.
Yeah, I don't know about the barbecues, but the results don't follow. So he manages 12 matches, gets one win. And after the 12th game, the chairman comes into the dressing room and bollocks the players himself. And Maradona recalls this in his book. He says, "I turned around and I faced Cruz and I shouted, "You motherfucking fatso! What the fuck are you coming in here to talk to the players for? We talk to the players. Get out! Get out! Get out! Or I'll smash your face in with my bare hands."
Wow.
After that, I left the club naturally.
So he only did like 100 days, probably. Sort of like
Yeah,
that time that Gaza managed Kettering Town or whoever it was.
yeah, it wasn't working. So Deportivo Mandier actually end up going bust a year later. So apparently they'd been massively in debt even before this, but they'd been taken over by this like government official who thought he could turn things around by getting Maradona in on this huge salary. Obviously the results didn't follow, and his salary bankrupted.
So that was like the last Hail Mary.
yeah, exactly.
Go big or go home. And they
Yeah.
went home.
They no longer exist.
Do they actually no longer exist?
It was one of those sort of
Phoenix,
Phoenix Club
yeah.
things. So I think they're actually back in the football pyramid.
Oh,
and good luck to
Argentina.
him.
They've learned their lesson. So anyway, for some reason that doesn't put off fellow Argentine side Racing Club, who are actually one of the biggest clubs in Argentina, from appointing him a few months later. In his first game, Maradona's keeper saves a penalty, and he responds by walking out into his technical area and giving middle fingers to all four sides of the ground.
There's something about the way he does it. It's like the arms
Yeah.
are totally still, and he's just,
Just rotating.
he's calm, which
Yeah.
makes it
his
funny.
face is just completely straight.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was his first game. In another match, he completely loses the plot with the linesman. So he's apparently been harassing him over every decision for the whole game. Eventually gets sent off for squirting him with a water bottle.
It's quite playful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it more than playful?
Yeah, he said afterwards, he was like, "Yeah, I was merely trying to make the linesman who is deaf to listen to me. I merely squirted him with a little water."
Or just to be like, hey.
Yeah. Anyway, he doesn't last long there either. He does 11 games at Racing and 2 wins.
These are short stints.
Yeah.
Slightly better than his last manager.
2 wins in 11 rather than 1 in 12.
Yeah.
So
But
going in
again,
the right direction.
again, it's like 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's his thing.
Yeah, I think he falls out with the management there as well. So
Yeah.
that is also his thing. At this point, though, he gets a call from an old, I wouldn't say friend, but acquaintance, Pele. And Pele invites him to Sao Paulo and offers him the job as Santos player manager. So his playing ban is sort of coming towards the end now, but he ends up turning it down because he's decided he wants to go back to Boca Juniors, which
To play.
to play. Yeah.
That
So
Santos job sounds quite dysfunctional, doesn't it? Player manager of Pele's old team
yeah.
in Rio. Don't think I want Maradona there.
Yeah, what might have been.
Yeah.
It's quite a good story. Also, Pele and Maradona uniting.
That would have been quite cool.
Pele's what? Just like the chairman at that point. Isn't he?
Not
He's a bit
sure.
older.
Yeah, just honorary president.
How old was he at this stage?
Diego,
Yeah,
late
he's
About,
30s.
yeah, I think he's mid-30s now because he does a couple of years at Boca. In the
Still
end.
not that old.
Not that fit. So he's playing at Boca again.
Yeah, so he comes back to Boca. They basically agree to sign him on the promise that he's going to do loads of like money spinning friendlies for them. So they basically calculated that if they play all these games in Japan, Korea, places like that, that they can fund his contract. Diego also gets a cut of the fees that they get for playing these matches, and he's pretty decent for them. So he plays 30 games for Boca over the next season and a half, scores 7 goals. So Boca had basically agreed this pay-per-play contract with him, possibly because they suspected that he might not have the best work ethic. So he got $50,000 per game, and also had to do a drugs test put on by the club before every game.
Nice.
Fair. It's a bit of a George Best gig,
Yeah.
isn't it? Not quite as
yeah.
George Best ones were proper piss takes by the end.
Yeah.
7-a-side matches.
I
and
think
stuff.
getting him to do a drugs test before every match, they sort of knew something was up. And their fears proved well-founded after the first game of the 1997 season when Diego tests positive for cocaine. So
Shock.
yeah, so he'd actually, before the match, he tested negative in the test that Boca had made him do. But then after the game, the league like doping official had called him in for a random test.
For an actual test.
A random yeah.
Diego.
Yeah. And yeah, he tested positive. So there was some suggestion in some books that he might have had a little line before the game, which is why he tested positive the one after. He did play very well and scored in that match. So
A sharp
you would do.
no.
I don't think football is a good sport for coke. I think we've talked about this before, which sports would be useful for.
Yeah, I
Would
reckon
any sport be useful?
Yeah,
for
we
coke?
decided that one where you slap someone in the face would be quite good. I don't know if that's a sport.
if your mouth is
There was
just
another
numb.
one as well. I can't remember what it was.
Anything that exerts like massive physical
Short
activity.
bursts of
shot
energy.
put.
Yeah.
Shot put was
Shot
it.
put.
Shot put, yeah. Javelin.
Long
Yeah.
jump maybe.
But not a 90-minute football or an hour,
No.
I guess he's playing.
Yeah.
So hang on, I'm starting to doubt Boca's drugs testing
That's what I was
regime.
about to say. Like, are they fixing it?
I mean,
He's probably got the doctor on side.
The test is only for them.
Yeah, but is there a
Yeah.
bit of a running theme with Maradona that like everyone loves him so much that they're like, it was Diego.
Yeah.
So the doctor would have been like, oh, don't worry, just. Or maybe
There
Diego
were-
had his prosthetic penis back.
Penis, yeah, I was
there
thinking
was
about that.
Wizinator.
The previous season, there wasn't a sort of suggestion that he had been rigging these drugs tests.
Or with a Wizinator prosthetic
yeah,
penis.
possibly, yeah, or just his baby's urine.
Yeah.
Didn't it go missing or something like that?
Yeah, it was in a museum in Buenos Aires and then it got burgled and it's gone.
It's gone missing, yeah.
The prosthetic penis.
Mm.
That was a collector's item.
Maybe we should start a campaign. To
Yeah, I
find
would
it.
love that. Or Mike Tyson had one. I'd take his.
Right.
What do you
penis?
think?
No, the Wizinator, the prosthetic
yeah.
penis.
Right.
Whoever's got it, what do you think they're doing with it?
Just loving it. They've probably got it as like a
To-
trophy
to
on
the
their
podcast
mantelpiece.
studio somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you do? Wall mount it, I think.
Yeah.
You'd have to have it on the wall back there
Like
next to
sticking
the
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely better than just like a random signed Maradona shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
More
ultimate.
personal.
Yeah. Tangible.
Anyway, Boca's manager, Guillermo Coppola, has always denied that Maradona had taken coke before the match. Although Coppola himself had just got out of jail for dealing coke so police raided his house and found 400 grams of coke in a vase
Fuck.
in his
400.
house. This
So-
is a Boca manager.
He's managing Boca and
managing
shotting
Diego
a Coke.
Maradona.
And probably supplying it to Diego.
Possibly, yeah.
That's
And then
excellent.
bailing him out in interviews. But anyway, so after that failed test, Diego's facing up to another ban and he decides to retire from playing for good this time.
Probably for the best, mate.
Yeah. And retiring from management as well, right? Like this is the start of what we'll call his wilderness years.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Although he's not exactly out in the wilderness, he's very much front and centre.
Yeah,
If
front
it's
left.
a party. Yeah. So we're in 1995 at this point, and Diego, without a job, he's spending pretty much all his time just partying. And you're probably wondering, what is the vibe of a Maradona, an average night out with him in the mid-90s? Fortunately, we have an account of that time from none other than Liam Gallagher, who met Diego in 1997 when Oasis were playing in Argentina.
We was in Argentina and we've done a gig and next minute we're sat in the bar having a fucking drink. About 30 people have come legging it in, like the Anthill mob. We're going, who the fucking hell's that? Sting was at the bar crying because he'd fucking had his dressing room robbed. And anyway, so found out it was Maradona, gone upstairs with a load of fucking madheads and a load of fucking women of the night. So we were going, look, can we just go up and meet him like that to the fucking interpreter? And the interpreter's gone, all right, cool, let me just go and fucking square him. He's gone up, come back down, he's gone, only the Gallagher brothers can go up. So we were like, laters. The rest of the band. Steamed up there and we got in there and there's fucking loads of activity going on. Maradona's in the middle of the room fucking doing football tricks with a bottle top. And his eyes were fucking like that. And ours weren't far off. And I was going, look, it's a bit moody in here. Like, let's fucking just get a quick picture with him and we'll fuck off. And he's fucking sweating his bollocks off. And we turn around and said, what did he just say? He says, he's told me to tell you, if you leave with any of his bitches, he'll have you shot.
It's a bit fucking moody in here.
There's so much to enjoy in that.
Yeah. It's just
Fucking
clobber.
Tell the rest of the band laters. Was when he goes, Sting was fucking crying at the bar because he had his dressing room robbed. I like that though. He does somehow paints quite a good picture of like what it's like with Maradona. He's in like a moody room. He's very sweaty.
I love that he's just doing kick-ups with a bottle.
Yeah. And loads of
Surrounded
women
by
around him.
girls.
Yeah.
Like too coked up to actually shag anyone.
Yeah.
We'll have you shot. Doesn't sound like he's an Oasis fan in particular.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, is he actually an Oasis fan or is he just there for the sesh?
I think he's there for the sesh.
Where was it again? Was it at a
In
gig?
Buenos Aires, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they'd played a gig. I don't know if
Was
they
it
were
in the
then-
venue? Was that
Yeah, or
went to a
maybe
club
then
after
a
yeah.
hotel bar or a club or something. I don't know.
Look at his eyes.
Yeah, his eyes are like saucers. He is smiling, unlike the Gallaghers.
Noel looks so funny. This
Noel just isn't funny. He looks like a
Noel looks like a-
Thunderbird's puppet.
50-year-old dad from the outskirts of Manchester.
That is a fucking good pick.
classic photo, isn't it?
So good. So yeah, I mean that's basically Maradona's vibe around this time. Actually, a few months later, he pops up at Rio Carnival. So it doesn't get the Santos gig, but does get to party there. I actually saw another pic of him from the 2006 Carnival, and he's there with Diddy.
Yeah.
It's funny how life winds up, isn't it?
That has not aged well.
How it pans out. Unfortunately, this freewheeling party lifestyle is about to be interrupted when a past crime comes back to haunt Diego. So we're in 1998 now, but actually back in 1994 during the build-up to the World Cup, there'd been this whole discussion of whether Maradona's going to make the tournament or not. Will he, won't he? And then it looked like he was going to be in the squad. The manager said, as long as you're fit, I'll pick you. And then suddenly, just before the tournament, Diego dropped a bombshell and pulled out of the squad.
I heard a rumor that it was because the government in Argentina. Diego said that he was going to dedicate the World Cup to Fidel Castro. Have you heard that?
The Cuban
Yeah. Guy, and they didn't want that to be.
That is very
public.
plausible.
So that's why he pulled it.
He's really good mates with it. We'll come on to that, him and Fidel
Yeah.
Castro. But what, so you think the government
The
was...
government were like, you can't play. If you're going to dedicate it to Fidel, then you need to.
That's mad reason to not play someone in the World
He's
Cup.
got, it's
Yeah,
his
he's got a tattoo of him. Yeah, we're going to talk more about Fidel Castro.
Sorry.
I know you're a fan. Anyway, so he suddenly pulls out, and so, you know, this being Maradona, it's the top story in Argentina. The entire Argentine press corps assemble on his front lawn. They're basically camped out there demanding answers. And, you know, Maradona's never been a fan of journalists. He's clashed with them throughout his career. And so naturally, he just goes back inside, fetches an air rifle, and then crouches down behind his Mercedes and starts taking shots at the journalists and photographers.
Maradona cracked and opened fire with an air rifle.
Has he got his entourage with him as well?
Yeah, I think they've all got guns.
Right, come on, boys. We're going to go get the journos.
And he hits 4 of them.
Fuck.
And he yells at them, "If you don't get out of here, we're going to start shooting real bullets. You're all a bunch of dickheads. Next time you shout, I'm really going to lose it." Not sure what that accent was. So he ends up injuring 4 people by
But
hitting
wait,
them.
so did he not get done at the time? They waited 4
He
years.
got done for it, but it took, you know, the wheels of justice turn slowly in
yes.
Argentina, especially for El Diego. So it took a while. But by 1998, they've finally brought this case to
Were
court.
they just waiting for him to end his football career so that they could enjoy that?
Yeah.
Well, as in we don't want to lose him from any
Yeah.
matches. Yeah, possibly. I don't know, who knows what went on. Once again, Diego probably had someone on his side, on the inside. But this eventually comes to court, and in 98, he is given a suspended jail sentence. So he dodges jail. What I would say about Maradona is he's got fucking good lawyers. Because do you remember in the last episode, in like 91, he gets caught with like an ungodly amount of coke in his house, like enough to go to jail. And I think he gets a suspended sentence then. Once again, he's denied.
He does just
stint.
operate on a different level to anybody else in Argentina, right?
Yeah. Did
Just
you not
got
see the
this-
photo of him on the private plane and there's like a massive sack next to him and it's like a kilo on a private plane and he's just sitting there having his tea.
Apparently, he used to, when he was at Napoli, he used to smuggle it back from Argentina in football, inside
Yeah,
footballs.
footballs, yeah.
Anyway, so he avoids jail and he goes back to enjoying his freedom, possibly a little bit too much. So, I mean, Maradona had always had an unhealthy lifestyle, but, you know, as we talked about in the Napoli episode, he would party from Sunday till Wednesday, and then he'd be like wrapped in a bin bag on a treadmill, sweating it all out. And so he just about kept the balance. But once you take football out of the equation and he's not playing and training, there is no counterbalance for his insanely unhealthy lifestyle. And by 1999, Maradona had ballooned up to 19 stone.
That's huge.
That is enormous.
Yeah, especially considering he's 5'5".
Actually, the BMI on that.
Bowling ball.
I
was talking to our colleague George about it, and he described him as a tuna cat.
so dense as well. Yeah. I actually looked up his I calculated his BMI. So 19 stone at 5'5", his BMI is 51.7. Which
Wow.
healthy level is between 18 and 25. Obese starts at 30, and severely obese is 40, and he's 51.
So he's like a quarter over, more than a quarter over, severely obese.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the thing of like the Boy George thing of like you kick the drugs for a bit, or Pete Doherty, kick drugs for a bit,
And you replace it with food.
Because apparently he was just living off steak, pizza, pasta, and cakes.
And Coke.
And Coke. Yeah. And
Sounds
a lot
fucking
of Coke.
great.
But yeah, like you said before, he always had that stocky build anyway. That like, it's kind of a bit like Rooney or something like that. That you can see that as soon as they're no longer like athletic, then they can get pretty chubby.
Which way do you guys think you'll go?
When the podcasting career
is over.
When the content dries up. I'm going fat. I'm going Elvis style, Maradona.
Eating a loaf of bread hollowed out.
Yeah,
filled
on the
with peanut
bog.
butter. Deep fried.
Proper animal. Anyway, everyone in Argentina, you know, they love Diego, so they're quite sort of sensitive about his weight. They don't want to like mock him or anything. But the British tabloids have an absolute field day because this is only like 10, 15 years on from the hand of God. So the tabloids really haven't forgiven him. And there's an article in one of them headlined, "The Hand of Blob." And then it has the subheading, "Maradona puts on 4 stone and becomes Flabadonna." I'll read it to you. England fans have waited more than a decade to get their own back on Argentine soccer cheat Diego Maradona. And now we're finally having the vast laugh. Maradona, who infamously said he scored with the help from the hand of God, looks twice the player he was after piling on 4 stone to become a wobbling parody of himself. The 39-year-old showed off his massive tum as he puffed his way through a new film on Italian football in which he plays himself. One onlooker on the set said, "I don't know about Maradona. He's more like Maradona kebab now." Definitely an onlooker, not a member of the staff editorial team, the Sun's editorial team. So yeah,
this was definitely pre-fat shaming being a bad thing.
Yeah.
Do you think they would still do that for someone they hate? Probably not.
No, not that harsh.
I remember watching an old episode of Have I Got News For You from probably this same era, and it was all just like John Prescott's fat jokes.
Yeah.
Just like brutal.
But there was that program. What was it called? The like weight loss program. There's compilations of it on YouTube of that guy, and he's just like, "I'm off to meet a couple of right old fatties." Do you know the program I mean?
Is that the, like super size versus super skinny? The one where they
he's like, "These two sisters from Woking are absolute blubber bods." And you're like, "Fucking hell!" Was this on terrestrial TV? TV was cruel in the 90s. The video was.
Kind of miss it.
Yeah. Anyway, Maradona actually, he has a gastric bypass around this time, which is when they staple your stomach. So he's taking measures. These days he'd just be on the Ozempic, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He does actually suffer his first heart attack around this time. So like there is a sense that his unhealthy lifestyle is like genuinely really worrying. Whereas in the past it was just like, it's Diego, he can do whatever, you know? He's reaching middle age. Fortunately, Diego finds help from his good pal, Fidel Castro, the Cuban leader. So apparently they'd always been friends since the 1986 World Cup, when Castro had taken a liking to his style. And Castro used to visit Diego when he was in rehab for coke. He said after Castro died, he was like a second father to me. And after his gastric bypass, he goes to Cuba and recuperates. And he actually spends a lot of his life there. For the next 4 years, he's in Cuba a lot.
Feels like he's kind of like, for the rest of his career, he's kind of run into different countries to get out the limelight a bit.
Yeah, I think that's true.
He's also met some mad historical figures. Like we talked in the Napoli episode how he was hanging out with Pablo Escobar
and the Pope.
And he was in Soviet Russia. I don't know if he met. I mean, he was with Lenin, but Lenin was 60 years dead. Yeah, he does. I mean, it's Maradona. Everyone wants to meet him.
Icon.
And there are more accolades coming his way because in 2000, FIFA decided to hold an online vote to name the player of the century. And so it's really, you know, everyone's thinking it'll be Pele or Maradona. And the fans really swing behind Maradona. He wins it by a landslide. I think everyone, again, just they love his vibe. But the bent blazers at FIFA aren't happy because they want a squeaky clean winner. And so they decide instead to appoint a committee who will decide the actual winner based off the poll. And they award it to Pele instead. And this really angers Maradona.
What was the committee's process? So you used to work with the poll and then decide it from
I
that.
think they were like, the poll was a consultation of what the public think. We'll take that into account. And it's Pele. Also, Pele's not that squeaky clean. But
Is
more
this
so.
like when they did the boat face boat name poll?
What happened?
And they ended up calling it the David Attenborough or something.
Yeah. I am with them.
And then
'cause
they called like a lifeboat the boaty boat face.
I'm with them because I fucking hate that boaty boat face. Shit.
So what, did they change it because they
You
thought
hate
Pele...
democracy. That's what you hate.
Yeah. Funny enough, Zach, I do. I used to like it. Now I think it is corrupt and decadent.
We need a strong leader.
Yeah, I think they thought we can't have Maradona, who's like currently 19 stone and addicted to coke.
Right.
It happened at a bad time.
I suppose Pele was still well, he's not squeaky clean.
He was doing Viagra ads, but I guess that's
Yeah.
better.
He's cleaner.
Yeah. Anyway, Maradona throws a huge strop and he's like, well, I'm not coming to the fucking ceremony if you make it Pele. And so they decide to award a trophy to each player. It's proper FIFA bullshit at this. And so they're like, okay, Maradona, he says, I have to go up first or I'm not coming. So they get him to go up first. And they're like, okay, but we want you guys together with the trophies. Maradona just goes up, gets his trophy and just walks off and leaves before Pele can even take to the stage.
Love that.
It actually, I don't know if during their careers they had this, but it sort of ignites a bit of a feud between Maradona and Pele. We'll have more on that in a bit. But first, a huge moment in Maradona's family life is about to take place because in 2003, he's off in Rome playing golf when a young man suddenly storms onto the course past security and comes right up to Maradona. And, you know, Diego thinks it's just a crazed fan. But then the young man utters the words, I am your son.
Is he Italian Bambino?
He is Italian. It is. We met this guy in our previous Maradona pod. It's Diego Jr.
Yeah.
So do you remember in Napoli, Diego had many affairs, and among them he had one with this local woman who gave birth to a boy who she named Diego Jr. And she appeared on TV news in Italy saying, this is Maradona's son. But he just totally denied it because he was with the lovely Claudia Villafane. So he just ignored this boy for 15 years. And eventually Diego Jr. saw his opportunity to finally confront his father. This is the first time they've ever spoken. And I think it's considered quite a nice moment. You know, he talks to him. It does take him another 4 years to formally accept that he is his son.
These things take time.
It's a slow process. Yeah.
It's like a scene out of a film, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, just random boy coming up to you on the 9th hole of the
Yeah, I'm your son.
local golf course.
Yeah.
So-
You sound a bit nervous there.
Yeah.
Do you think, was it planned or did he just spot him? I guess he.
I think it was very
gonna be
planned. I
there.
think he heard he was in Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because how often's he in? And it was Rome. He must have had to get the train up from
Do you
Naples.
do it on the ninth hole, so he's already invested enough in the game that he's
Yeah.
not going to.
Yeah, he's gone.
Also,
He's not going
he's
to leg it.
off.
Maybe after the second hole, he'd just leg it.
Yeah, he's also got a BMI of 54, so
He's not moving
probably
fast,
quite
is he?
puffing by that point. Well, he'd probably have a golf cart at
Yeah.
that size. And then, as you'll recall from our Naples episode, this element of the story has quite a happy ending because 2 years later, in a slightly shitter version of his dad's famous triumph, Diego Jr. leads Napoli's beach football team to their first ever national title. The Scudetto of the Sand. It's quite a sweet parallel. I can kind of picture him calling up Maradona, being like, Dad, I did it just like you.
Yeah.
He's like, well, hang on.
So I won the Scudetto of the sand.
all those seagulls in the background. Yeah, it's still, they all
So
count.
was he playing beach football even before he was recognised by Maradona, or did he get drafted into the Napoli squad?
What do you think?
after that?
They're like, well, now we know he's Maradona's son.
He must be good.
Yeah, on the basis of the rest of this story, I kind of think that is how it happened. If you're connected to Maradona, suddenly doors open.
Yeah.
And what door is more prized than captaining Napoli's beach football team? Anyway, meanwhile, Diego, he's sort of in and out of hospital and rehab around this time. It's all quite worrying, but he does finally kick the coke in 2004 for a bit. It's long enough that he can actually launch into a new career as a media star. So in 2005, an Argentine TV channel give Diego his own late night talk show. They call it The Night of the Number 10. And apparently viewing figures are good. A third of Argentina's population tune in for each episode.
Wow.
There's just no sports person in the UK who commands that sort of like religious devotion.
Is there anyone?
Apparently, it was quite a good show. They only ran for one season. Among it, they had a little recurring skit with a cartoon villain who bore a striking resemblance to Pele. Although he does actually get Pele on at one point. You might have actually seen this video of Diego and Pele doing headers back and forth.
I mean, that's insane.
Got the two greatest footballers of their era.
I mean, they're like 50 odd though.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. It goes on for a long time. His media stardom also allows Maradona to cash it in with his book. I forget what it's called. You've read it, haven't you, Zach?
I've read parts of it.
Any good?
Skim read. It was actually, to be honest, relatively dull as those books go. Like, you sort of want him to get into because it covers like the wilderness years, and he just brushes over it. It's all just like, I was so happy to be back at Boca Juniors, to be in the bombo now.
Yeah,
one
you
more
kind of
time.
want him
It's
to
like,
go in.
Do you think he remembers the wilderness years that well?
Possibly not.
There's a lot of coke flying around
Yeah.
and boozing and burgers. There is one good quote I liked in the book. You know how Peter Shilton has never been able to get over the hand of God? Probably understandably, because people always laugh at him like, how were you out-jumped by 5'5"?
Right.
Even using his hand, you should have beaten him to that. And Diego addresses that in his book. He says of Shilton, that thermos head got cross because of my hand goal. What about the other one, Shilton? Didn't you see that one? Never heard thermos head as an insult.
What does he mean by thermos head?
Idiot. I don't know.
Oh, right, like hot head?
Oh, you thinking heat?
Yeah, like
I was
thermos
thinking just sort of
flask.
like inanimate object.
Yeah.
You're right, maybe it's the
I think it must be, maybe it's like a translation thing.
Yeah.
That makes sense, the thermos head.
Yeah.
Any Argentine listeners who can explain that one, let us know.
Clarify, please.
Anyway, you're probably wondering, like, what sort of love life is this gargantuan, faded footballer enjoying? You know, he's a media star now, and everyone's devoted to him. He dates one woman in particular for a while, the lovely Veronica Ojeda. So in the noughties, they're together for quite a long time. She later sells her story and talks about their sex life. She says that in particular, he liked her to dress as a policewoman in the bedroom. It's quite 90s, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the police have generally been quite lenient in doing what he wants. So
Yeah.
Or so you think actually he's the dom in that sub-dom? Normally the policeman is the dom, but it's him pushing them around.
he just gets her to dress up as policeman, just like goes in with like bags of coke all over the bed. It's like, yeah, like, what are you gonna do? Just like, give me a suspended sentence, baby.
You can't touch me.
Give me a suspended sentence, baby.
She also said that they had a bonk in a public swimming pool during a party in Colombia.
Love that.
Sounds wild.
Bit of voyeurism.
Didn't know you could have parties in public swimming pools. I don't think I'd want to in England, but in Colombia.
So was he married still at this stage?
No, him and Claudia broke up for a while. I can't remember if they were ever married, but they break up for good.
Right.
But
I thought they
Claudia.
were quite on off.
Yeah, they are quite on off, and she does stay in his life. Like, she's often the one who gets him to go to rehab.
Right.
She like intervenes quite often, so they're still friends and close. I think until his death, actually. But he has many lovers around this time. Actually, Veronica dishes out some ratings. We like ratings on was he a good shagger. In the Naples episode, I seem to remember all the mistresses said he was very good in bed, and Veronica agrees. She describes him as the perfect lover. She said, I didn't have sex for 2 years after him. Nobody beats him.
Wow.
I can kind of see it. Like, he's quite sort of like,
Rampant.
yeah, nimble of hip. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're a good dribbler,
Yeah.
I think some of those skills would translate.
To
Yeah, well, like agility.
Yeah,
I think
he's
more
got
of
good
an
balance, low center of gravity.
yeah. I think a lot of that would be quite effective. Although, is he 19 stone at this point? Surely he's not on top. Surely,
BMI of 51.
but if you like the sort of cuddly bear,
yeah, missionary.
yeah, I think you've got to lie on your back at that size.
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
you?
yeah.
Yeah, but maybe I think the gastric bypass has happened. So, anyway, she rated him 10 out of 10 between the sheets and 8 out of 10 for oral sex.
Oh, I wonder what he could have done better.
Yeah, he's lost 2 points there. Why? Is that just not doing it enough?
Yeah.
Not being committed enough.
Feels like a bit of a side swipe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
8.
I guess his chin's quite large at that point. Maybe.
Couldn't get around.
Come on, you love eating. Anyway, she's not his only girlfriend because he also sleeps with a friend of the pod, none other than Wanda Nara.
She pops up all the time.
Yeah. Now Wanda Icardi, of course, these days she's divorcing Mara Icardi, but she hasn't even married Maxi Lopez by this point, the other Argentine footballer. So she's a sort of like it girl model. You know, this is pre-Instagram, so she's sort of making her way on the scene of trashy Argentine celebdom.
She must have been super young when she got it.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
I mean, if you want to get big in the celeb world of Argentina,
Yeah.
that is a ticket
no one
to
bigger.
it. Yeah.
Get on Diego.
And according to a TV presenter, Mirtha Legrand, they have extremely loud sex. So Mirtha was staying in the next door room in this hotel, and Wanda and Maradona are in the other room, getting down to it. Mirtha says, I was in the presidential suite next to them and I couldn't sleep because of the noise. They moved furniture. I don't know what they were doing. This is the truth. I was an auditory witness to their rampant sexual encounter. Were they just moving
Rampant
furniture?
I guess Maradona walking across the room sounds quite
Just him rolling over in bed.
Bong.
Yeah, poor thing. That's a nice little cameo, I think, from Wanda.
from Wanda. Yeah. Did Maradona ever manage?
Well, yeah,
Maxi
because obviously, as
Lopez?
we're going to talk about, he goes on to manage
Or Icardi,
Argentina,
yeah.
and
No, it
I checked. Maxi Lopez never plays for Argentina.
is that because
Maradona
Maradona was shagging his
shagging his
wife?
fucking wife.
Poor Maxi Lopez has already been cucked by Icardi, and now he's getting cucked by Maradona as well.
He's had a tough life.
Yeah. He's piled on the pounds a bit, actually. I saw the other day.
Who, Maxi?
Yeah, sorry, that's not fire shots at him, but yeah,
He's suffered enough of anyone.
Right.
in this.
Mara Icardi does play for Argentina, but not again under Maradona, which again might be a vendetta. And actually, as we'll see later, Maradona not a fan of Mara Icardi. We'll talk about that.
Was Lopez with Wanda when?
No, I don't think so. They marry 2 years after this.
Right.
So this is 2006 that Maradona shags her. 2 years later, she marries Maxi Lopez. So
Right.
I would say that sounds like overlap, but I think Wanda Icardi, the engagement can be quite quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swift.
In my experience. But Diego's busy schedule of booze, burgers, and booty is about to be disrupted when his country comes calling. From nowhere, Diego Maradona is about to leave the wilderness and return to Argentine football in the biggest job of all. And that is when the chaos really starts. From running over reporters to feuding with Aguero, join us next time for part 2 of what Diego did next.
Ooh.
See you then.